a scary story about Chernobyl and Chernobyl monsters. Hey there, fellow explorers. Ever wondered what happens when a city is left frozen in time? When the laughter of children is replaced by the whisper of the wind through empty streets? Welcome to Pripyat, a ghost city that's been untouched since 1986. Tonight, we're diving deep into the shadows of one of history's most haunting places, Chernobyl. You might think you know the story. A catastrophic nuclear disaster, radiation zones, evacuations. But what if I told you that's just the beginning? What if the true terror lies in what's been left behind, or what was created in the aftermath? Legends whisper of creatures born from radiation, lurking in the ruins. Monsters that defy explanation. Are they real, or just the product of overactive imaginations in a place steeped in tragedy? Grab your flashlight and stick close. This is a journey you won't soon forget. Let's unravel the mysteries of Chernobyl and its infamous monsters. The Chernobyl disaster, a brief overview. First, let's rewind the clock to where it all began. It's April 26, 1986, a date that would be etched into history. In the early hours of the morning, technicians at Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant began a safety test. But a combination of flawed reactor design and critical mistakes led to an uncontrollable power surge. The reactor explodes, ripping through the facility. Flames shoot into the sky, and a deadly plume of radioactive material is hurled into the atmosphere. Chaos ensues. Firefighters rush to the scene, unaware they're charging into an invisible inferno of radiation. These brave souls fight valiantly, but many would succumb to acute radiation sickness in the days that followed. Meanwhile, the nearby city of Pripyat awakens to the sight of smoke billowing from the plant. Life goes on as normal. Children go to school, families enjoy the sunny day, completely oblivious to the danger. It wasn't until 36 hours later that the Soviet government orders an evacuation. Buses line the streets, and residents are told they'll be away from home for just a few days. They leave belongings, pets, memories, all thinking they'd be back soon. But days turned into decades. A 30-kilometer exclusion zone is established, sealing off the area due to extreme radiation levels. Nature begins to reclaim the deserted streets and buildings. The Chernobyl disaster remains the worst nuclear accident in history. But while the radiation devastated the land, did it also give birth to something else? The exclusion zone today. Fast forward to today, and the exclusion zone is like stepping into a real-life time capsule, or perhaps a post-apocalyptic world. Pripyat stands abandoned, the hustle and bustle replaced by silence. Trees grow through buildings, and moss covers playgrounds where children once laughed. But here's the twist. Without humans around, wildlife has made a remarkable comeback. Elk, wild boar, and even rare species like the Przewalski's horse roam the area. The absence of human interference has turned parts of the zone into an unintended wildlife sanctuary. Yet the zone isn't without its dangers. Certain hotspots remain highly radioactive. The Red Forest, named after the pine trees that turned reddish-brown from absorbing radiation, is one of the most contaminated areas on Earth. Explorers venturing into the zone often describe an eerie feeling, as if they're being watched. Shadows seem longer, sounds more pronounced. The line between reality and imagination blurs. Over the years, whispers of strange sightings have emerged, unexplained phenomena that can't be easily dismissed. Could the radiation have done more than just mutate cells? Could it have spawned legends, or even creatures that defy logic? Hold on to your Geiger counters. We're stepping into the realm of myths and monsters. The myths and legends of Chernobyl monsters. Alright, let's delve into the spooky stuff. Tales of mutated creatures in Chernobyl have been circulating for years. Some are rooted in scientific curiosity, others in pure nightmare fuel. One of the most chilling legends is the Blackbird of Chernobyl. Described as a menacing, winged creature with piercing red eyes, it was reportedly seen by several workers in the days leading up to the disaster. Those who claimed to have witnessed it were said to be plagued by nightmares and threatening phone calls. Was it a harbinger of doom? Then there's the story of the colossal catfish inhabiting the reactor's cooling ponds. Fishermen have reported catfish so large they could swallow a person whole. While catfish can indeed grow big, especially in environments with little competition and ample food, these sizes seem fishy. Wolves are another source of ominous tales. packs of wolves with unusual behavior patterns, unafraid of humans, showing signs of abnormal aggression, and even physical deformities. Glowing eyes reported in the dark woods add to the eerie experiences. Visitors and illegal stalkers, not the creepy kind, the adventurous explorers, have shared accounts of strange beings. Humanoid figures moving swiftly between the trees, too tall and elongated to be human. Some speak of creatures with extra limbs or distorted features. And let's not forget the rumors of plants and fungi with bizarre properties. Glowing flora, trees that seem to whisper when no wind is blowing, and mushrooms that emit an eerie luminescence. But are these stories just byproducts of the human psyche reacting to a haunting environment? Or did the radiation twist nature into something more sinister? It's time to shed some light on what radiation can really do. The reality of radiation effects. Science time. Don't worry, we'll keep it chill. Radiation can indeed cause mutations by altering DNA in cells. However, the vast majority of these mutations are harmful, leading to defects or death in organisms rather than spawning super creatures. In the Chernobyl exclusion zone, scientists have observed some fascinating and sometimes unsettling changes. Birds called barn swallows have shown abnormalities like deformed beaks and albinism. Insects in highly contaminated areas exhibit reduced lifespans and fertility. Trees near the reactor have exhibited mutation in growth patterns, some growing in strange, twisted shapes. But here's the kicker. Despite these mutations, wildlife populations are thriving. Without human interference, animals have reclaimed the land. Nature, it seems, is resilient. As for the giant catfish, well, in undisturbed environments with plentiful resources and no fishing, catfish can grow quite large. So, while they may be bigger than usual, they're not necessarily mutants. The glowing eyes? Many animals have a reflective layer behind their retinas called the tapetum lucidum, which can cause eye shine, especially noticeable in the dark woods. Radiation has undoubtedly impacted the ecosystem, but it's important to separate sensational myths from scientific reality. But science doesn't always explain the unexplainable. Let's revisit those chilling encounters that continue to baffle and terrify. Chilling encounters and stories. Ready to get those goosebumps going? Let's dive into some real accounts. Meet Yuri, a researcher who spent months studying wildlife in the zone. One night, while collecting data near the reactor, he heard faint singing. It sounded like a child's lullaby, carried by the wind. Following the sound, brave guy, he found nothing. Just an empty playground with a rusty carousel creaking eerily. Then there's Anna and her team of documentary filmmakers. While shooting footage in an abandoned hospital, they captured unexplained shadows darting across the hallway. At first, they thought it was a fellow crew member, but upon review, everyone was accounted for, and the shadows moved in ways that defied logic. A group of stalkers, remember, adventurous souls, shared a tale of camping near the edge of the Red Forest. As they sat around the campfire, they noticed the forest had gone unnervingly quiet. Suddenly, a distant glow emerged between the trees, a humanoid figure emitting a faint light. It moved slowly, almost floating. The group didn't stick around to investigate. One of the most unsettling stories comes from a firefighter named Alexei, who worked on containment efforts years after the disaster. He reported seeing a man in an old Soviet uniform wandering near the sarcophagus, the concrete structure encasing the reactor. When approached, the figure vanished. Colleagues dismissed it as stress-induced hallucinations, but Alexei remained convinced he'd seen a ghost. Electronic devices often malfunction within the zone. Tourists and researchers have reported fully charged batteries draining instantly, devices glitching, and unexplainable interference. While some attribute this to residual radiation affecting electronics, others believe it's something more, paranormal. And perhaps the creepiest tale, a pair of explorers entered a building that appeared untouched. Inside, they found a room with a table set for dinner, plates, utensils, even food remnants that looked fresh. As they stood there, the building suddenly echoed with distant laughter and footsteps above them. They bolted, and when they returned with authorities, the room was covered in dust, the table bare. Skeptics might say these are just stories, tall tales born from fear and the eerie atmosphere. But for those who've experienced them firsthand, they're chilling reminders that Chernobyl holds secrets we'll never fully understand. Could the residual energy of the disaster have left an imprint? Are spirits trapped in time, replaying their final moments? Or does the mind conjure illusions when faced with overwhelming isolation and silence? Either way, these stories add another layer to the already mystifying aura of Chernobyl. The psychological impact of Chernobyl. Let's take a step back and consider the human mind. Places like Chernobyl are heavy with history and emotion. The desolation, the silence, the stark reminders of lives abruptly halted, all these factors weigh on visitors. Psychologists suggest that in environments devoid of familiar stimuli, our brains can play tricks on us. Shadows seem darker, sounds more ominous. The mind becomes hyper-aware, sometimes interpreting benign stimuli as threats. This is known as pareidolia, the tendency to perceive meaningful patterns or images, like seeing faces in inanimate objects. Moreover, knowing the tragic events that unfolded here can amplify feelings of unease. The concept of psychic residue posits that traumatic events can leave an energy imprint, influencing how people perceive a place. Fear, isolation, and expectation can create a perfect storm for experiencing or believing in the supernatural. At its core, perhaps our need to explain the inexplicable gives rise to these stories. In places where science meets mystery, legends are born. So, are the monsters real? Or are they manifestations of our deepest fears? So there you have it, a journey through the shadows of Chernobyl, a place where reality and myth intertwine, where the scars of the past meet the whispers of the unexplained. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, there's no denying that the exclusion zone is steeped in an aura that captivates and unnerves. Perhaps the true monsters are the ones we create in our minds, born from fear of the unknown. Or maybe, just maybe, there are secrets hidden in the silence of Chernobyl's abandoned streets. One thing's for sure, some mysteries are best left undisturbed. Thanks for joining me on this chilling adventure. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more intriguing tales. Until next time, stay curious and keep an eye on those shadows.